So hi, my name is Junius. I'm 37 years old, and I'm bipolar. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2018, and I've struggled with it ever since I went to college in 2007. I used to have these things called episodes. I called them episodes because I didn't know what they were. They were mania. I would feel like out of my body. I'd feel kind of like high naturally. I've never been high before, but I've been high naturally. And I would feel like everything was going really fast, and I would feel really close to everybody. I wouldn't have any inhibitions. And I could take a test. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. I could take a test and I could get an A on the test without studying. And this happened for 8 years. All through college. No, 9 years. All through college and all through the time that I lived in Oakland, California. And I was always diagnosed with ADHD and depression because my depression was the most obvious part of my illness. And in my senior year of college, I was in a creative nonfiction writing class, and I wrote about these episodes, and my teacher, Rebecca, said, "Honey, that's mania." And it never really, I don't know why, it never really clicked with me. And then my mom, who died 4 years ago, she had alcoholic neuropathy. She was diagnosed bipolar about a year or two before she died, and she was 69 when she died. And now I live in this beautiful little apartment here. That is all my boyfriend's artwork. That's Eric. All my books that I haven't read. My slushie. My picture of New York. That's my TV that I never use. I love these pictures. My boyfriend is a horror and fantasy artist. He lives in Kentucky. I've never had a boyfriend before. So that's a new thing. But, so when I got into grad school to get my Master's of Fine Arts in theater, in performance from, I'm not going to tell you where I went, but, and then after my first semester was over, I was really exhausted all the time, and I couldn't sleep enough. And I drove home to Nashville, where I live now, to be with my father for Christmas, and I couldn't make it home. It's about a 6-7 hour drive, and I couldn't make it home. I had to stop in a hotel and spend the night, and I actually was going to go to New York City the next day to see my sister, my twin sister, and her husband. And my father thankfully my father called the airline and canceled my flight, and I was okay. Sorry. So the next day I went home, and I drove the rest of the way home, and I was sleeping all the time, like I usually do. I do tend to sleep a lot. And one day, I was in bed in my dad's house, and I was thinking, if my dad walks in right now, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. I'm going to have a panic attack. And he walked in, and I did. I had one. And I was going, I was hyperventilating. Sorry. And my dad called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital. I was there for a couple of hours, and they said, nothing's wrong with you. And I was like, what the fuck? I just had a panic attack. Something's wrong with me. And so my dad got me a psychiatry appointment, and I was going crazy. I was manic for about 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't sleep. I stayed up all night watching YouTube videos about animals, and I was like, there has to be a God because these animals are so beautiful. Oh. Don't want to see that. And so, and I was talking all the time. I couldn't shut up. I was driving my father crazy. My thoughts were going at 1 billion miles an hour. I was naturally high. And I would go for walks in his neighborhood. I used to go for walks all the time. I can't anymore because I gained weight. And whenever I walk for long periods of time, even for short periods of time, I'll feel like my lower back and my feet will start killing me. And I think that's because of the weight that I've gained in the past 5 years. So I used to go on walks in his neighborhood, and he lived in Franklin, Tennessee, which is a really beautiful part of Nashville. It's about 30 minutes south of Nashville. He lived on 13 acres of property over the hill from Cool Springs, which is like a mall area. It's like where everything is that you could ever want. But he lived on a farm. I think we lived right next to Brad Paisley. Dad used to see him taking runs in the neighborhood. I never saw him. I don't like country music. But it's late. So I went to a party with my dad for Christmas with all of his musician friends, and Jeff Coffin, who used to be the saxophone player of Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, with Victor Wooten and Future Man and Bela Fleck, who are all just brilliant. Jeff was at the party. He's got this goatee and a bald head. I love his look. And I went up and talked to him, and I felt no fear. I felt absolutely no fear. I wasn't afraid of talking to him. And there was music playing in one room, and I went and danced, and I felt no fear. I taught a woman how to mime. That was really fun. And I felt no fear. I felt no social inhibitions. I felt absolutely no inhibitions. I was very free and easy. And my father finally took me to see the psychiatrist, and I had been trying to downplay how I was feeling and my symptoms of mania. I didn't know that I was manic. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was going crazy. I was and I took a walk, and I found this dead squirrel on the side of the road, and I picked it up by its tail and buried it in the leaves on the side of the road. And I was shifting my hands through the leaves, going, wow, these leaves are so beautiful. And then I would look through all the trees and see the little berries and the little leaves and all the little flowers, and it was just gorgeous. And I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. I was naturally high. I was on a natural high. And so I went to see the psychiatrist, and I really let myself go. I let myself talk. I let myself just go crazy so that she could really see what was wrong with me, because I really wanted to know what was wrong with me. And she said, honey, do you ever get depressed? And I was like, yeah, all the fucking time. And she said, honey, you're bipolar. And I was like, I knew it. I fucking knew it. It's taken me since 2018. It's 2015 now. So it's taken me 7 years to become stable, maybe 6 years to become stable. Sorry, I had to pick my nose. To get on the right medicine, I take a couple of... I also developed anxiety. I developed anxiety attacks since 2021. And I used to have 8-hour-long anxiety attacks. They lasted all night long. And I wouldn't have anybody to call. I would call 911 sometimes, and an ambulance would come and give me oxygen. I'd like rip the oxygen mask off my face, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I will explain my anxiety in another video, but this one is about bipolar disorder. So, I'm bipolar. And my mom was bipolar. My aunt is bipolar. 2 boys in my family, 2 cousins in my family had schizophrenia. They both killed themselves. One threw himself over a cliff. The other one hung himself in his parents' basement. I have a cousin who is very autistic. Lots of depression and bipolar disorder, alcoholism in my family. This is particularly on my mom's side of the family. And I'm finally stable. I still sleep a lot. I sleep 12 hours a day, sometimes more. Today I slept from 12 midnight to 2 p.m. And then I got up. I was up for maybe 2 hours, and then I went back to bed for 4 hours. So I take trazodone, and my trazodone it's a sedative, basically, and it puts me to sleep for 12 hours and makes me tired, so I need to find another medicine. But my psychiatrist said that the medicine that I take, hydroxyzine, for it's an emergency anxiety med, and it's a controlled substance, and you can't take more than one controlled substance, and I need that anti-anxiety med in order to be okay. Just having it on hand makes me less anxious. And in the last 7 months, I've had 3 anxiety attacks. 2 of them were less than an hour. I had one last week. It was 5 hours, and it was terrible. And I really can't do anything about them, except for take my medicine and just try to lie still and go to sleep. And if it gets really bad, I'll call 988. But I'll talk about that some other time. But because I was misdiagnosed for years, because I didn't understand what was happening to me when I was having attacks of mania. And it was only in 2018 when I really went crazy and was manic for a couple of weeks that, because, when I was manic before, it would be a couple of hours, maybe a day. I would never have a panic attack and hyperventilate and feel like I was going to die. I would just feel out of my body and feel really friendly with everybody. I will let you know next video that I make what I'm taking, what medicines I'm taking. I think that'll help. But like I said, I do sleep a lot. I don't work. I haven't worked in 2.5 years. And I'm grateful that I don't have to. So I just need to get my sleep figured out, because my mania and my bipolar disorder is pretty much under control. I really don't get suicidal anymore. I used to be actively suicidal all the time. I lived with my mom while she was dying, while she was sick, for a year. And then I lived with my dad for 3 months before that. And then I lived at my mom's house for 9 months after she died. By myself, pretty much. And then I moved into this lovely apartment. I live in Antioch, which is 20 minutes south of Nashville, 10 minutes south of the airport. It's a very convenient location. I try to travel as much as I can. I couldn't travel for about 4 years, and I would try to, but I'd always have an anxiety attack, either while I was driving, or in the plane, or on the terminal, or in the terminal, or what have you. And having an anxiety attack when you're traveling really, really sucks. So I would avoid traveling. But I can travel now. I still do get anxiety, but I'll talk about that in another video. But I used to get suicidal and depressed all the time. I don't anymore. The only time I ever get sad is when I don't hear from my boyfriend. My boyfriend is very busy, and he still makes time to talk to me, but some days he can't talk to me because he's so swamped, and that makes me sad. But I'm not, like, suicidal. I don't get manic anymore. I will let you know what the medicine is that I take that helps me. It's not necessarily going to help everybody. It helps me. But I'll let you know what it is. But for anybody struggling with bipolar disorder or depression or anxiety or mania, I'm living proof that you can get better. I'm not perfect. I still have problems, but I'm not as bad as I used to be. I have friends. I have a support network. I keep myself, well, I guess I don't really keep myself busy, but I go out. I try to go out every day, at least once a day, to eat or just to go out. I usually go to a coffee shop every day. But I just want to let you know that it is possible to get better if you have bipolar disorder. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.